Hey world, this is a video response to a video response. So James Von Maxwell has submitted me a video response regarding my video, Why I'm Feminist.
Okay, so I found a man named Keith's Universe, has a YouTube channel, and he was telling us why he's a feminist.
Now it goes without saying, I received a lot of negative backlash for this video, and that's absolutely fine. This is a channel that covers a lot of controversial topics, and it's bound to happen eventually. Okay, James's first point is that the gender wage gap doesn't exist. The biggest issue affecting feminism. And no, it's not the gender wage gap, which is also very important, by the way.
No, it's not. It doesn't exist. A recent Harvard study, linked below, shows that there are basically two major factors in why there is an earnings gap between men and women.
Firstly, when it comes to the gender wage gap, which I did not get into pretty much at all, I very slightly referenced it in my initial video, because that's a whole other topic that goes into some very specific things. There's a lot of factors at play here. It's not quite as black and white as a lot of people would paint it to be, and that goes to those who are feminists and those who are not feminists. So right off the bat, the article that James has sourced seems to be gearing towards an argument based on statistics of the data being more geared towards average earnings, which is a fair point. There are many other articles and sources that paint a very different picture and look at the gender wage gap from a different perspective and don't necessarily base it on average earnings. And I'm going to link some of those below in the description area. You can check them out if you are curious. Now, I unfortunately don't have time to go through every single point in the report, but I'm going to pick up on some of the main points of it. The report seems to focus very heavily on the flexibility of women in the workplace and the amount of hours that they work and such. Now, perhaps I am misinterpreting the data here, but it seems to me from reading this report, it seems to be supporting the ideology that there is at least a gender earnings gap. The report itself explains in great detail why we have discrepancies between the two genders when it comes to equal pay. It even goes into detail for solutions to how we can reduce the pay gap. So if there is no pay gap and the pay gap is a myth, why would a report be discussing solutions to reduce it? That seems a little bit odd to me. So the conclusion to this report states, and I quote, "We show that a gender earnings gap can exist even in controlled environments where work tasks are similar, wages are identical, and tenure dictates promotions." Now, if we want to discuss a difference between a pay gap and an earnings gap, I can totally respect that. And if that is the case, then perhaps we need to modify our terminology to convey the points that we are making to make it more clarified and transparent. Okay, so let's look at James's main feedback here.
Would you categorize what happened to Terry Crews as rape? You know the story, right, Keith? He was sexually assaulted by some creepy Hollywood type and grabbed him in the junk.
No. I'd simply call it sexual assault to me, because that's what it is.
And he also didn't report it. Isn't that interesting?
I'm not actually surprised that he didn't initially come forward for quite some time. And there's a few possible reasons for that. For the first and foremost, there is a tendency for people to regard men who do come forward with testimony such as this, that it is somewhat demasculating. And I would wager that it's possibly a very embarrassing ordeal to have to admit, especially for a public figure. Possibly a very difficult and possibly traumatic issue for these victims to be bringing up and recalling. Anthony Rapp described his experience as horrifying. So while I don't share their experiences, I will at least try to empathize what may be going on in their minds and what they may be feeling.
What do you think of, Keith, when someone says to you, "I have been sexually assaulted"? What do you think of automatically? It's almost Pavlovian at this point. Naturally, you think she was raped. However, sexual assault is very well defined in the law in the United States. Basically, anything that isn't forced penetration is sexual assault. And the definition has been widened quite a bit.
Yes, naturally, if someone was to admit to me that they have been sexually assaulted, I might assume that they've been raped. But I do try to get into the habit of training my mind to acknowledge that when someone says sexual assault, that may not necessarily mean rape. But what we have here is an issue of word association, and we need to train ourselves to understand that when we hear the term sexual assault, that does not necessarily always mean rape, and I have no problem admitting that. No problem whatsoever.
However, the feminists have programmed you and many millions of people to believe that when someone says they were sexually assaulted, that they were raped.
No, I don't accept that I've been programmed by the feminists or anything of that sort. This is not something that I've taken lightly. This is not a change that has occurred overnight. This is something that I've given quite a great deal of thought on. The 1 in 6 project reported that only 1 in 6 men will experience a sexual assault in their lifetime.
Disagree wholeheartedly with your characterization of only 16% of men being sexually assaulted, as if it's nothing. What do you...
Now, that is not to diminish the men who do experience a sexual assault.
Oh, I think it is.
No, I am not. I was making a comparison.
Men are more likely to be victims of murder, or aggravated assault, or robbery. Anyone?
Okay, sure. I have no problem admitting that. Men are also more likely to experience hair loss, but we're talking about sexual assault here. We shouldn't automatically discredit any such claims.
Yeah, see, this is where you're not even a feminist, because feminists to this day, with the Brett Kavanaugh situation, I'm sure you followed it, he was accused of something by a woman with no evidence, no data, no witnesses, nobody came out to back up her claim. And yet, the same feminists that we see today marching on the streets are calling Justice Brett Kavanaugh a sexual predator.
Okay, let me make something very clear here. Me not agreeing with every single opinion every feminist or even a group of feminists happen to have on a particular subject does not make me less of a feminist. The same way if a person of the LGBTQ community or the vegan community happens to have a particular viewpoint that I don't exactly side with, that doesn't make me less of a gay person, it doesn't make me less of a vegan, it just means that I don't agree with that particular opinion. I don't agree with false accusations of sexual assault to the same extent that I don't agree with false accusations of internal homophobia. Bottom line here's the golden rule of thumb: wait until the evidence is in.
Yeah, most people agree with that, but feminists do not.
No, particular feminists do not. Believe it or not all feminists want to be the new face of BuzzFeed. Some of us can't stand BuzzFeed. I know you weren't exactly making that point, but I just want to emphasize that we're actually a lot more diverse than you would give us credit for. You see, this is why I define my particular flavor of feminism, if you will, as moderate feminism. I defined it at the very start of my video, and for very good reasons. We don't all side with each other on every single issue. We can disagree on certain issues. Quite honestly, it's the same in every group. Now, I don't know if you align yourself to a particular group yourself, or if there's a certain label that you identify with. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that you do. Let's say you belong to group X or label Y, and 1 or 2 people in that group decide, okay, I have this opinion on this issue, and you don't agree with them. Does that mean that you're no longer associated with that particular label? Of course not, because you don't have to agree with every single opinion in whatever group or label you align yourself with. You can be a feminist and have diverse opinions about whatever the hell you want. Some people may not like it, but that's life. Sad fact of the matter is, rape culture is a very real thing.
No, I do not agree with that. 100% disagree with you. The only rape culture we have in the United States, Keith, is women who don't report their rapes to the police.
Well, okay then, I guess that is an issue we are going to have to agree to disagree on, because as far as I am concerned, rape culture is real. It is a fact. I've observed it. I've listened to the most depraved statements and descriptions from straight men and all of the nasty, depraved things that they want to do to women without their permission. That is not rape culture. I just honestly do not know what one would call it. Is there some other terminology that we need to be using here? Perhaps edgelord culture? I don't know. But when we have this attitude of, let's just call it locker room talk, and I think you probably know what I mean. Being an American, you must know what I mean. When we have this sort of mentality of that, it promotes a very toxic and a very unhealthy attitude to how men should be treating women. And I noticed this especially during my teen years, that I'll be surrounded around a lot of guys who were very much embraced in this ideology of locker room talk. And if you think what President Trump said, grab him by the you-know-what, was bad, that's like a sugar-coated version to what I was listening to in locker rooms and what this what these guys wanted to do to women. And quite honestly, it was just disgusting. I don't even feel comfortable even repeating some of the things that I heard. And to me, that is very much rape culture. That's the start of rape culture. That's how rape culture starts. And I know a lot of people have the opinion, oh look, it's locker room talk. It's all talk. These guys, they're so cocky and they're just talking the talk. Okay, maybe the vast majority of them are talking the talk. But are you sure that there isn't at least one or two of them that are acting on what they're saying? You should probably think about that. And so that is my response to your response, James. I hope I have addressed most of your points. This video is going to be pretty long as it is, so I can't address every single issue. But I hope I've at least addressed the core of what is important in this debate. I would like to say that I do very much appreciate you taking the time to respond to me in the comments and in video response and featuring me on your channel and so on and so forth. I really do appreciate it. And I also appreciate you acknowledging that I am attempting to achieve something positive, and I am. Now, I know some like to claim that I'm virtue signaling. That is not the case. I don't think I'm better than any of you because I'm humanist, feminist, whatever label you want to link to me. I don't think I'm better than any of you. Well, maybe some of you. No, I'm kidding. I don't think I'm better than any of you. Honestly, I'm just very passionate about my opinions. I do have controversial opinions. Some of them are popular opinions, some of them are not popular opinions, and I'm very passionate about them. And I just want to express my passionate opinions in the most honest way that I can. So for anyone else watching, please note that this is a generalized activist channel. I don't just talk about feminism, I talk about all forms of activism, from other forms of human rights activism and also animal rights activism. So next week I want to get back into talking about veganism. And before you say it, I can almost envision the haters down below in the comment section typing out, "Soy boy confirmed, soy boy confirmed." Yeah, you got that right. I'm very passionate about my soy. Hashtag soy boy for life. So thank you very much for watching and stopping by my channel. I do very much appreciate it. And to all the haters out there who call me soy boy and white knight, I would like to wish you an abundance of freedom, peace, and love. Take care.